Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about the book Candy Bomber, the story of the Berlin Airlift's chocolate pilot. And in The Candy Bomber, the story of the Berlin Airlift's chocolate pilot, Halverson tells his story about how a small act of kindness turned into a worldwide movement. The book isn't just about a pilot sending candies to kids in Berlin, it's about hope, kindness, and how small acts of kindness can make a huge impact. And the overall story conveys how the right actions at the right time can change the course of history. This book captures a unique moment in time when something as simple as candy could restore hope to thousands of children. Now let's talk about the background information of this book. After World War II, Germany was divided into four parts, controlled by the US, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. By 1948, tensions between the Soviet Union and the other Allied nations were growing. To take control of Berlin, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin blocked all land routes into the city, cutting off food, fuel, and supplies for over 2 million people. Families in Berlin struggled with hunger, businesses shutting down, and the fear of Soviet control loomed over everyone. Then the Berlin Airlift started, one of the biggest humanitarian efforts in history. Instead of giving up, the US and its allies started flying planes into West Berlin to deliver food and supplies. Over 2 million flights were made in less than a year. The pilots risked their lives to make sure Berliners had the essentials they needed. This was a huge moment in the Cold War, which showed the justice of Western nations protecting Berlin from the Soviet Union. It was a defining moment in history, setting the tone for the ongoing conflict between democracy and communism. And let's talk about the argument of this book. Halverson's main message in this book is simple but powerful. Even small acts of kindness can have a big impact. Once he said, "I never imagined that 2 sticks of gum would turn into something so big." And this one small act created a movement, one that went far beyond just a few candy drops. It became a symbol of hope, a representation of human kindness during a time when the world was divided by war and politics. It showed that even in the darkest time, people can find ways to connect, to share, and to bring joy to one another. And the story was that one day when Halverson was waiting at an airfield, he met a group of German children watching the planes. They didn't beg for food or ask for anything, they just wanted to see the planes. He gave them 2 sticks of gum. The kids broke the gum into tiny pieces and even shared the wrappers to smell. Seeing how happy they were, he wanted to do more for them. And this moment stuck with him so hard, and also it made him realize just how much something small could mean to someone who had nothing. The war had taken so much from these children, but the simple act of sharing gum gave them a little bit of happiness, a little piece of normal life. That's when he started dropping small parachutes of candy from his plane, and candy drops became more than just sweets. They became a connection between the children of Berlin and the American pilots. It builds trust, friendship, and a sense of hope that had been missing since the war. The story proves that small gestures can lead to big change. Even in time of war, kindness can bring people together. Halverson shows us that no matter how bad things seem, a little bit of hope can make all the difference. So how did the story connect to nowadays? First, I want to ask that, why does this story still matter today? That's because history repeats itself. There are still people facing war, hunger, and crisis all over the world. The struggles of Berliners in 1948 are not so different from those of refugees and displaced people today. Humanitarian airlifts still happen today, helping people in war-torn places like Syria, Afghanistan, and Ukraine. The idea of kindness and generosity can change lives hasn't changed. Even now, small acts of kindness like donating food or helping a neighbor still make a difference. The legacy of Operation Little Vitals lives on in modern relief efforts. Every time people come together to help others in crisis, they're following in the footsteps of Halverson and his fellow pilots. Halverson once said, "If one small act of kindness can start a movement, imagine what an entire generation could do." His story proves that hope and compassion are just as powerful as any political strategy. He reminds us that individuals, not just governments, have the power to change history. Now, let's take a look at the effects to the world so far by the story. The impact of the candy bomber was huge, both in short term and the long term. In the short term, it gave the people of Berlin hope. The candy drops became a symbol of friendship between the US and Germany. The kid who got those candy parachutes grew up seeing Americans not as enemies but as friends. This changed the way people viewed one another, turning former enemies into allies. In the long term, the Berlin Airlift helped create NATO and aliens that still exist today. The airlift also showed the world the power of humanitarian aid, and it proved that countries could work together to help those in need, setting the stage for future humanitarian missions. Halverson's story also continues to inspire people. Even in his 90s, he visited schools to share his message of kindness. He once said, "It's not about what you have, it's about what you can give." Today, reminding us that kindness and generosity can change the course of history. So now comes to my opinions. What do I really think about The Candy Bomber? Honestly, it's an amazing book. It's easy to read, it's emotional, and it really brings history to life. It's a book that stays with you, making you think about the impact of small acts of kindness. It's more than just a history book. It's a lesson in humanity and hope and in the power of doing the right thing. And I think the best part is how personal it feels. The letter from the kids, the details of Halverson's experiences, it makes the story feel real. It's not just about history, it's about people, emotions, and hope. Overall, I gave the book a 4.5 over 5. The 4.5 was from fluently transformed through different perspectives in each chapter, and how easy was it to read and understand, and how inspiring. The deducted 0.5 was because it doesn't get too deep into Cold War politics, and it feels more like a personal memoir than a detailed history book. And that's all. And thank you for watching.